Hi, this is Attorney Mike Gravlin coming to you from Chicago, and today we're going to talk about jury nullification. What is it, and why do we care? In order to understand jury nullification, we first have to understand where jury trials come from, and they come from the 6th and 7th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And the 6th Amendment reads in relevant part, "In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crimes shall have been committed." And for the civil side, that's the 7th Amendment. The 7th Amendment states in relevant part, "In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved." The fact that a jury trial is constitutional in its basis is important because that's kind of what leads us to the concept of jury nullification. And the reason for that is since it's in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, it is fundamental. What happens is juries are given a lot of deference because nobody really wants to mess with a constitutional Bill of Rights, plain as day law. And that is what the right to a trial by jury is. So what is jury nullification? It's just basically a fancy way of saying the jury doesn't feel like following the law, and despite the fact that a case was proven, they don't want to come to that conclusion, so they just do what they want instead. This concept applies primarily to criminal juries, people being prosecuted with crimes. The criminal jury gets a lot more deference than a civil jury. But a couple examples of the sorts of things that, the sorts of laws that juries have nullified, and you can kind of understand why when you hear them. Things like the Fugitive Slave Act or a lot of the prohibition laws. People just simply didn't agree with the law and didn't want it applied. So you'd have a case, and the case was made as a matter of law. The facts were really not even in dispute, and the jury just refused to convict on that circumstance. There's also more of a sympathy with the defendant kind of a thing. You'll see horrible cases where somebody, for instance, murders a child rapist, and jury simply does not want to convict them under the circumstances. Now they can always just say, "Hey, we had reasonable doubt," but in many of those sorts of cases, I would just consider that jury nullification as well. There really is no doubt as to what happened, but the jury simply does not want to convict that defendant. In the civil context, it doesn't get quite as much deference. The jury verdict has a lot of sway. However, we have things like judgment notwithstanding the verdict, so you can go afterwards and say as a matter of law they were wrong, and that sort of thing happens fairly regularly. And also, there's a concept called remittitor, so a judge can take a jury verdict and reduce it. There is no corresponding editor. I just made that word up. You will not see a judge add money to a verdict ever, only reduce it. But there's more leeway for judicial intervention with a civil verdict than a criminal verdict. As you can imagine, I'm an attorney, and I get a lot of questions about jury trials and the jury system, and for some reason I get a lot of questions about jury nullification, so I hope that may have answered some of them for you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Here at Law Talk, we do a lot of videos answering common legal questions. We also do reviews of law in the movies and then on TV. We also share some of our more interesting cases. We're always putting out new videos. So if you like that, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell.